Soon, AI agents are going to be employing, billing, and paying each other. Hello and welcome to Tech First. My name is John Koetsier. Everybody's building agents. We know this. We see this. We're building sites. They're spinning up infrastructure. They're orchestrating workflows. They're entering data, cleaning up documents. But let's be honest, they're not full-fledged teammates yet. If they ever will be, they can't hire, they can't onboard, they can't pay, they can't say, I don't do this, but I know an agent that does that. So agentic commerce, agent native payments, is a missing link in agentic automation. Perhaps not for long. Here to chat is Jim Nguyen. He's a former PayPal executive, current CEO of Inflow, which enables AI native payments. Hello, Jim. How you doing?
Hi, John. Thank you for having me.
Super pumped to have you. It's a cool topic. It's a super interesting topic. I get pitches on agents. I want to say daily. I think that's accurate. And sometimes it's more than one, right? But I haven't got a pitch on agents that pay each other, agents that employ each other, onboard each other, all that stuff. It's a super cool concept and idea. It's a natural progression once I've seen it of where we've been from. I'm going to quote from your press release. Your press release says, every platform shift redefined how money moved. PayPal made payments native to the web. That makes sense. Apple made them native to apps. Now Inflow makes them native to AI agents, agentic payments that are frictionless, trusted, and autonomous. Super interesting statement. Just big, broad question. Why do agents need financial capabilities?
The missing link is how do this work becomes commerce? So what we enable is the ability for agent, who's a new customer, to be able to transact with each other. We think of, hey, humans is a customer. Maybe your children are customers of the web and mobile, but this is a new customer that has completely different ways to interact with payment systems. So we built Inflow with the mindset that, hey, it's a new customer. What does this customer need? And how does this customer interact when they buy and sell and transact with each other? So that's what we built it for.
Huh. Give some examples. What does this look like?
So as we can see, the AI market is going crazy. One of the things is, there's the AI coding agents. There are a lot of workspaces out there. And what happens here is when a person sits and uses these AI agents or applications, they say, hey, please go build me a website. And the coding applications gives you a beautiful website, but that's where it stops. Because the next thing you're going to ask is, hey, I'd like to be able to host this on a database and be able to grab a name for it, right? So all these things, the agents can only build the website. The human needs to step in and create accounts for the database, create an account for a domain name, then they can pass it back to the agent. That right there is the friction that we're solving. We're enabling agents to be able to embed onboarding and payments inside of the workflow so they can create a new account on the database, as well as pay for the database and then provision that database all within the IDE or workspace that the developer's on.
That is super cool. Somebody who's built and published dozens, if not scores of websites, it's challenging, right? I mean, like build or buy or commission a theme. Let's say if it's WordPress, get your hosting figured out, upload the theme, customize it, customize your install, all that stuff. Add e-commerce capabilities, hook it into your stats package from Google or whatever, right? And all this is very, very manual. And you're talking about taking that and saying, hey, you know what? I can vibe code this website, and now I can hook up all the wires with agentic workflows. That's
Exactly. Because the agents are smart enough to build websites, right? They have, color coordination, all these things. Well, we think that it's easy to go and create a new account, but the issue here is not the intel; it's the lack of a payments infrastructure to enable this. So that's a really critical point here. And when we think about it, when we started this company, of course, we're building a payment system. That's the way that we've centered our approach is we imagine ourselves as a payments team within our customers team and say, hey, the CFO comes and talks to me, hey, Jim, we launched a product 6 months ago. It's doing great revenues. How can we accelerate the payments? What can you do? So that's the mental model that we're working with and saying, hey, Now that my AI coding agent is able to take payments from a human, can my agent take payments from an agent?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't support the agent, that means you're going to lose a customer, a buyer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, so, and that's where our mental models. Okay, now that we've identified that there's friction in the process, the two friction points are onboarding, much like what humans do, and then configuration of payments. Humans do again, right? So when we identified those two issues, then we said, what are the technologies available to build and make this seamless? So our approach is to build top down. What is the consumer experience, and what does the company want to deliver to experience to the consumer? Then build a payment system around that. That's where our differentiators.
Super cool. Two thoughts come to mind. One is the customer experience you can deliver to your customer is going to be amazing and incredible, assuming this works well, because you can provide the full meal deal. It's not just one slice of what you need to do to get this service up and running, or one slice of what you need to do to get this workflow operational. It's the whole thing with different companies, different agents brought in and helping out. That's super cool. The second thought that comes to mind is, I wonder if this is kind of the maturation of AI agents, because the concept agent in the human world, predating AI, is somebody who is kind of my representative, has authority, can deal for me, treat for me, negotiate for me, pay for me, those sorts of things in my stead. And that hasn't truly been the case with
Yep.
AI agents yet.
Correct. That is correct. I go back again. It's like AI agents are super smart. They have the index of the whole World Wide Web, every book that's ever written. But then the mechanics of interfacing with payments is a different layer altogether. Just like when you're building a SaaS company, that SaaS application is very different from the payments they're putting to monetize that SaaS, right? So they're different layers.
Hmm.
Layer that's solved today is, hey, the intelligence layer that's solved. What's missing is really the payments. But more importantly, it's not just payments built from the ground up to say, hey, I have a wallet, I have stable coins, I have fiat. That is table stakes, right? It's understanding how the customer experience is and what is blocking them. That's
Hmm.
critical. And how we approached solving the problem is top down. And this is where how we built inflow, which is where the inflow comes from. It's in the flow of work.
Cool. Is this primarily for businesses? Is this a B2B play, or is this for consumers? What's it look like? It looks like B2B with a strong consumer addition. Am I right?
The answer to that question is on a time scale. Uh, uh, Short term, it's going to be whoever wants to sell and generate more revenue from a new customer base, first and foremost. Right. And then over time, as AI matures and develops a little more, you can have agents working with and for each other, paying each other. Right. And one of your segments said, hey, every person's going to have 100 AI agents. Well, are those agents working? And if they are they paying and getting paid? Right. And that's really
Mhm.
the long term goal. But short term is like, hey, if you're a website and you are selling GPU services for for your models, human developers go today to buy your services. Why aren't you enabling this for agents to buy and upgrade the service as well? For example, there's a time when the developer's offline, he or she's not available. The service is at 90%, right? But then the alarms are going off. The alarms are going off. What happens
Mhm.
next?
Mhm.
Does the agent have the authority? You know what? I'm going to buy some CPU and GPU power to really keep myself up and running because my owner is not here, for example.
It's super interesting because as we've seen the evolution of payments, and as I mentioned off the top, what you put in your press release in terms of platform shifts, we've seen an acceleration in the ability for commerce, for buying, for initiating and completing transactions. With this addition, it could be lightning fast. I mean, it could be at the machine speed transactions.
Absolutely. And really the goal here is remove the complexity of paying whoever the payer is, right? It's like imagine if you had to go to a grocery store and say, you know what? Hey Jim, we can only take cash from a bank account that you only you withdrew five minutes ago. It's like, wait, that means that's so frictioned, right? But imagine say, hey, you know what, Jim, that's your bill. We'll take any type of payment option, cash, credit card, right? It's the same thing that's happening is you're streamlining the process. And as I mentioned, for the web, in-app payments, that was really critical for mobile, right? But the blockage here, which is not being solved, the blockage in the AI payments is not more payment capabilities, right? It's like now we have enough payment capabilities already. Of course, there's always more to be developed, but we have enough to get it started. So where our expertise is, payments is our background, but where we focused our time is how do we enable frictionless money movement? That is not only at the user interface level, but how do you enable the moving at the protocol level, whether it's fiat or using stable coins as a rail, right? So that's where we removing friction from moving money and taking money and distributing that.
You can't get away from money, can you? I mean, you created RubyCoins, it's for in-game payments. Then you got bought by PayPal. Now you're doing another thing around payment. I mean, you seem to love money.
I love the idea of commerce, productivity. When productivity happens, then there's a reward involved, right? And I think this is where it's challenging. Like I mentioned, every platform shift, there's a new opportunity to build new payments infrastructure. And really, my payments journey started when a little bit before RubyCoins, I was playing video games. I used to run tournaments for video games, and then my team members would be late. I'm like, why are you late to the tournament? Because Jim, the payment flow takes me out of the screen. There's all these things outside, and I can't come back into the game. And this happens all the time. He goes, oh, really? Okay. And it happens to me several times. And I said, you know what? This is crazy. Being the technologist that I am, I said, hey, I called my co-founder and I said, hey, can you do this? And of course he said, no, impossible, Jim, cannot be done. 2 weeks later, he comes up with a demo, and that's how RubyCoins was. The ability to enable in-game payments. You never leave the game. It's part of the game of buttons. It's top up, top up, top up. And that's how it was born. So we always focused on delivering the best consumer experience or the payer experience. And then we're taking that idea and understanding and our background into agentic payments, which is really how can agents pay? In agents, there's no UI. There's there's no form filling, or at least from a UI perspective, right? Where we really excel.
So I guess the question is, will an agent spend all my money? What are the guardrails here?
That's a great question. Think about this. You are creating a child account, a credit card for your cousin, your friend, your child, right? You wouldn't put all your money in there. You say, hey, here's a debit card. Here's $100. You're 12 years old. Go have at it, right? You don't get to block the spending real time, but the statement comes back and you know what happens. Then you have to talk, right? That's right. Same thing with agents, right? And think about this. When we're using payments, the human issue payments, the logic to pay is up here. So we say, hey, I wanted to spend this much on this site, and we click. So the logic is here. How do you take that logic and put it into a policy system to put guardrails around this, the agent? So each agent can have a policy that says you can only go to these sites. You can only spend this much. You can only spend this across these time zones. All the things you put guardrails around that, right? And then of course that's because it's financial services. It has to be also regulated. Agents, if you talk about agents really on its own, then hey, there could be rogue agents that's launched by malicious teams. But our system, we don't believe in that. We believe that every agent is an extension of the person. So when this agent is spending, you are liable and really are responsible. You sponsor this agent, so it's really tied together. So from an agent perspective, and I think that's where we're seeing some of the talks around the globe now is like saying, hey, agents are malicious. Yeah, they are malicious, but if you link them to something and you don't enable to transact until they link, then that's another layer of protection, right?
That's a layer of built-in responsibility.
Absolutely.
That adds accountability. That adds, okay, if there's something wrong here, this thing's doing something wrong, I know who to go to. I know who to talk to. There's a paper trail. And you can follow that. That makes a ton of sense. It's really, we're going to enter some mind-blowing future here, because I was talking with Savinay Berry, CTO of OpenText, a couple of weeks ago. They say we're going to have HR for agents, right? For onboarding agents, for end of lifing agents, right? Retiring agents, all that stuff. And now we're gonna, the financial systems that enterprises use are going to have to make allowances for these budgets that you're talking about, these policies you're talking about for how much an agent can access, when they can spend, where they can spend. It's a really interesting thing that's going to come into all these systems that are built initially for human customers and human users. One thing that comes to mind is an agentic marketplace, right? So if I have agents that can hire, that can fire, that can pay, that can transact, they can farm out labor, because you know what? That agent can do it more effectively than I can. It's cheaper. There's so many permutations of this that come to mind as we open this Pandora's box here. We need an agentic marketplace where I can find agents. They can say, here I am, this is what I do, this is my rating, here's my reviews, here's here's my uptime, here's my processing time, here's my rate, my pay rate per unit of work done, all this stuff. And I can onboard them, and there's some common language here. We can, we don't have to have a complicated SDK install or anything like that. There's some APIs. We can talk back and forth. We can communicate, send work, send money, create contracts, all this stuff super easily. What's that look like in your world? Are you going to build that? Does that look like something agent.ai by HubSpot? What's it look like?
So we focus primarily on the monetization of each agent, full stop. We would work with marketplaces and help them onboard buyers and sellers in a regulated way, and then enable person like yourself or me to go, hey, I want to hire this agent who can handle my bills. And here's the budget that you can handle my bills. And these are the 5 accounts you can handle my bills just to start out. Right. And over time, as you gain trust on this agent, you give them more. But we would work with marketplaces. There's certain things that we stretch the envelope to really explore what's possible. But there's also a part where we're saying, hey, you know what? Marketplaces should be the way it works today, whether it's like
Mhm.
or Fiverr, connecting humans to each other. We want to enable those same marketplaces to connect agents. Hey, this
Mhm.
agent is going to buy a service from a human, or we can onboard an agent that is a seller that can sell to a buyer. Right. So today it's human to human. What if we can have another dimension where you have a buyer and seller as agents? You can cross pollinate now, right? You can say, hey,
Mhm.
you can buy from a human, and an agent can sell to a human. Right.
Yeah.
We onboard in a regulated way.
And an AI agent can onboard a human, because this is a task that an AI agent can't do, or I need a real world task happening. I mean, gig marketplaces are going to change massively. Can you imagine a decade from now what they'll look like, what it'll feel like? Super interesting. What you're basically answering is, you're not going to boil the ocean. You're not going to build everything in-house. You're going to focus on what you do, which is the financial layer. You're going to work with the marketplaces to enable this. That makes a ton of sense. Absolutely agree. Okay, blow our minds a little bit here. You've been working on this for some time. You're launching this company in this space. You've thought deeply about this area. What does this sort of fully autonomous work and commerce and AI and agentic landscape look like in a few years?
Again, time scale today is to help coding agents, workspaces to alleviate the friction. I think
Mhm.
the next phase is I'd like to see how enterprises integrate this. You mentioned HR, right? HR probably handles onboarding and then offboarding of employees, but how do you cut severance checks, and how do you enable payments? How do you enable these things that are below a certain threshold when you don't need certain signatures, and go, hey, you know what? We can pay out your vacations and things like that, right? So how
Yeah,
can you upload some of these things to an agent, and then
yeah,
under policy, of course, and if it reaches a policy, then you get approval from a human interaction.
yeah.
So I think first is to help just the folks who are building with agentic platforms today. Second is, how do we integrate this? Because I think and Jason says that I think he published an article about a year ago saying every white collar job is going to have agentic platform.
Hmm.
Over
Hmm.
time, every white collar job is going to have an agent. So
Hmm.
HR, as you mentioned earlier, we talked about engineers having workspace. Now HR has their own workspace. How can you
Hmm.
enable that? And how you can not only manage humans, but also you may be hiring a QA AI agent who's testing your website all the time, who's pinging your website. Or you may hire a company that does AEO for you. Hey, you're SEO compatible. How do you do AEO, for example?
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. In this future world, agents are the new apps, right? And you can be somebody who publishes and builds out agents. You can do that, of course, now with GPTs, for instance, on OpenAI's platform and other places like that, and people can use them. You can make them available. I don't think OpenAI has made a payment capability functionality there yet, but I'm sure that's coming. Super interesting world that we're just on the cusp of right here. There are some people who aren't crazy about agents. So Amazon, for instance, told, was it Perplexity with its Comet platform? Hey, keep your agents out here. So Comet, I can go there, you can go there, you can make your own AI agent. You can say, hey, buy this product when it hits a certain price from a certain place. And Amazon's saying, hey, get out. We don't want you here. We have our own Rufus AI agent for helping people buy and everything like that. And maybe some others will be like that as well. Maybe that's a Luddite attitude. Maybe it's not a Luddite attitude. Maybe it's a locus of control issue. Maybe it's something else that's going on. How do you feel about that whole scenario?
I've been on the edge of technology for some time now. These pushbacks are when you take it at face value, it seems like, hey, we don't like AI agents, but I've been around enough to say it may not be the agents that's the problem, not the issue, but the current way that these marketplaces work is it's optimized for humans, and that optimization is to optimize for revenue, for example, right? And maybe when agents come in, they shortcut all these things, and it just shortcuts the revenue model. So that could be, I'm guessing, yeah, that could be a way. But I believe that once merchants, marketplaces, and businesses learn how to optimize for agents, it's going to welcome them, because at the end of the day, it's a new customer. They're a buying customer with it and our capabilities. So why not take them? I believe that these companies need to level up, speed up their acceptance of a new user, right? Not so long ago, stablecoins, right? I think I came from a world not so long ago that, hey, why do we need stablecoins? You've got US dollars. I explained that to many people, but look where stablecoins is at today. It is one of the primary ways to move money, right? So agents of this, and it's not because the stablecoins threatens anything. It's just that there's no infrastructure to handle it.
Yeah.
That's the missing piece.
Yeah, cool. It's super interesting. In a recent tech verse that I don't think I've published yet, we were talking about agents and everything like that. And what you were just saying reminded me as well about retailers, for instance. And I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of ghost kitchens, which is, it just exists for Uber Eats, right? There's no place to go eat there. It's just a kitchen, and they have a brand, and it's on Uber Eats or the other food delivery places. And you can order from there, get it at your home, and there you go, all good. I think we might have headless e-commerce platforms. I'm making that prediction right now, where there's no website, there's no accessibility, there's no brand. It's just stuff and a warehouse and a distribution functionality, and it's agent optimized. You want
Absolutely.
X, there you go. And their costs are as minimal as possible. There's no UX, there's no UI, there's just APIs. Agents come in, talk, and there you go.
Exactly. And that removes the friction, right? Of ordering takeout for tonight. Tonight, if I want to go order takeout, there's a process I go through. That's a whole bunch of crunching of searches. And then, right. What if I can just have a voice agent say, hey, you know what? I'd like to get a burger with cheese, medium rare. Please get that to me by 7:30. And here's my wallet. Off you go. And dinner's here, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to a whole bunch of process that we go through. It's tedious, it's mundane, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
That we do today.
Yeah. Jim, this has been super fascinating. Thank you for having this conversation. I appreciate your time.
John, thank you for having me.